After 50 years of marriage, Ji Wangchuan still harbored a deep-seated hatred for me. I tried in every way to please him, raised our 2 children to be successful, yet on our golden anniversary, he still refused to take a single photo with me. My heart was filled with sorrow, but when a speeding car came hurtling towards me, he died saving my life. With his last breath, he mustered his final ounce of strength to pull the wedding ring from his finger. Meng Wanwan. If only I hadn't saved you first back then. At the funeral, the son was utterly grief-stricken. Dad, you always said you and Aunt Qingqiu were star-crossed lovers, that Mom ruined your whole life, that she robbed you of a peaceful end, but now you can finally be with Aunt Qingqiu. My daughter also shot me a venomous glare. If it weren't for you, your father wouldn't have left so soon. You're a jinx, why couldn't it have been you who died? Everyone said Ji Wangchuan shouldn't have married me, and even I felt the same way, so I made a deal with the system and went back 50 years in time. This time, I will vanish completely from Ji Wangchuan's life and let everyone have their happy ending. 1. Meng Wanwan. Don't fall asleep, stay with me. A man's urgent voice pierced through the haze. I forced my eyes open, only to gulp down a lungful of acrid smoke. Before me lay the twisted, mangled steel frames of the workshop, and beside them, a young Ji Wangchuan. I can't believe I've really gone back 50 years, to the very beginning where it all went wrong. In my past life, during the cotton mill fire, Ji Wangchuan saved me first. By the time he went back, Song Qingqiu in the next room was already dead. He resented me for that for the rest of his life. Now, I finally have the chance to change it all. Get on, I'll carry you out. Ji Wangchuan stretched his arm forward. I fought back the ache in my chest and pushed his hand away. Song Qingqiu, she's in the East warehouse, go save her, quick. Ji Wangchuan's outstretched hand froze, his gaze involuntarily shifting to the east. The worry and urgency on his face were almost palpable, but the next second, he turned back and reached out to firmly grasp my arm. You first, I'll be right there. No, I cut him off, pushing his hand away again. Ji Wangchuan, if you don't save her first, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. All the misery of my life, 50 years of marriage, 50 years of silent treatment, began right here. I staggered to my feet. I can get out on my own. Hurry, she won't last much longer. But, without waiting for his reply, I dragged my leg and pressed forward. As Ji Wangchuan's footsteps faded behind me, I forced a smile, yet tears began to fall unbidden. This first red thread of fate was, it seemed, completely severed. In my past life, I made a deal with the system to earn this chance to go back in time. The system told me, you and Ji Wangchuan are bound by 3 intertwined red threads of fate. Within the 3 days of your rebirth, you must completely sever all 3 threads, and then leave. From now on, we go our separate ways. I will not marry him or bear his children, and he will not spend his life pining away for me, unable to die a peaceful, natural death. But all things are bound by cause and effect. By disrupting that chain, I must bear the consequences. As long as he can live happily, I am not afraid of any price. Now he can successfully save Song Qingqiu. Due to the system's influence, I could feel the bond between Ji Wangchuan and myself weakening. Bang! The rapidly growing fire before my eyes snapped me out of my thoughts. My steps grew smaller and smaller. The wound on my leg throbbed with pain, and I had inhaled far too much smoke. Just before I lost consciousness, I vaguely felt myself falling into a warm embrace. 2. Water, water. The gentle warmth of water soothed my throat as I slowly opened my eyes. As my vision cleared, Ji Wangchuan, at 25, came into view. A dark stubble shadowed his jaw, and his eyes were bloodshot, clear signs he hadn't rested in a long while. You're awake. His voice was hoarse, almost unrecognizable. His right hand hovered in the air, as if he wanted to touch me but didn't dare. I looked away. After everything, it was still him who came to my rescue. My hand moved instinctively to my ring finger. No wedding ring, just the faint marks of 2 red lines. I did it. Song Qingqiu is alive. The first red line has vanished. Would you like more water? He brought the cup to my lips. His fingers brushed against my mouth, the heat of his touch sending a shiver through me. It reminds me of my last moments in a past life, when these same hands cradled my face just like this. Before resolutely slipping off the wedding ring, he said how much better it would have been if he had never met me. I turned my face away, shaking my head in refusal. Your leg, I'm sorry, I was too late. His words trailed off, his gaze fixed on my right leg. I smiled knowingly. In my past life, after that fire, my right leg was permanently disabled, and I was confined to a wheelchair in my old age. this time. To push him out of the way, I dragged my injured leg even farther. The damage will only be worse than in my previous life. I tapped my heavily bandaged right leg, feigning nonchalance. Will it need to be amputated? Ji Wangchuan shot to his feet, his voice trembling. Don't talk nonsense. I won't let anything happen to you. I've contacted specialists in the provincial capital. We'll transfer you tomorrow, even if it costs me everything I have. Watching him so frantic with worry for me, I gave a self-deprecating smile. How could I not love a man like Ji Wangchuan? I've known him for decades. He's always been like this. His words are full of spite, but his heart is softer than anyone's. Even though he didn't love me, he still spent all his savings to treat my right leg. The doctor said I shouldn't climb stairs this year, so rain or shine, he came to pick me up from work on time every single day. He held my hand as we walked through streets and alleys. In that era before elevators were commonplace, he would carry me up the stairs day and night to get home. Ji Wangchuan was perfect in every way, except he didn't love me. I lowered my head to hide the glimmer of tears in my eyes. It's fine, it's none of your concern. By the way, how is Song Qingqiu doing? I asked, clumsily changing the subject. At the mention of Song Qingqiu, a flicker of tenderness crossed his face. She's fine, he said, just inhaled some smoke. Xiao Zhang even took a photo of her. And she was smiling as if nothing had happened. Is that so? That's good to hear, Ji Wangchuan said with a laugh, and I found myself smiling along with him. I looked out the window. The clouds in the sky looked like one enormous sunflower. I was so absorbed in the sight that Ji Wangchuan reached over and waved a hand in front of my eyes. He said with a smile, "You want to see the sunflowers, don't you? There's a whole field of them planted by the hospital entrance. Wait here, I'll go pick some for you." I was stunned for a moment. This was the first time Ji Wangchuan had offered to give me flowers. I fought hard to hold back the tears welling in my eyes, forcing a bright smile onto my face. "All right, I'll wait for you." Ji Wangchuan left the house, and I reached out, tracing the outline of his retreating figure. "Just this once, let me be selfish." I placed a hand on my belly, feeling the presence of the child within. "Tomorrow, I will decisively sever the second red thread of fate." 3. After Ji Wangchuan left, I noticed something on the floor. It looked like he dropped it. I forced myself out of bed and shuffled forward, leaning against the wall for support. It was a photograph. I bent down to pick it up, and my breath caught in my throat. It's the photo Ji Wangchuan just mentioned. In the photo, Song Qingqiu was making a funny face, while Ji Wangchuan gazed at her with a tenderness in his eyes I had never seen before. Hazily, I remembered our golden wedding anniversary in my past life. I was wearing a newly made cheongsam and asked tentatively, "Wangchuan, shall we take a photo together?" He refused without even looking up. "No need." It seems he has forgotten that for over 50 years, we have never had a single photo taken together. Even the picture in our marriage certificate is just two individual photos placed side by side. What I had always dreamed of, she obtained with such ease. Comrade Meng. The nurse's call snapped me out of my thoughts. "Your leg hasn't healed yet. What are you doing out of bed? Let me help you back." I nodded. I waited until dark, but Ji Wangchuan's sunflowers never arrived. Worried something had happened to him, I asked a nurse to check on his whereabouts. The nurse gave me a sympathetic look. "He's fine. Comrade Ji has been in Comrade Song Qingqiu's room the whole time. They're having a grand time." Laughter's been coming from the room nonstop. "Don't you have the abortion procedure tomorrow? You should get some rest." My smile froze on my face, unexpected, yet somehow inevitable. Ji Wangchuan never lies to me, except when it comes to Song Qingqiu. Ji Wangchuan and I got engaged a year ago, but I never stopped him from going to see her. It's just that recently, Song Qingqiu's father made a political mistake, and Ji Wangchuan is at a critical juncture for his transfer back to the provincial capital. That's why I've been trying to keep him from having too much contact with Song Qingqiu. He agreed to it verbally, but he always finds all sorts of excuses to go see her behind my back. In his past life, he believed I had deliberately caused Song Qingqiu to miss the critical rescue window, and he hated me for a lifetime because of it. I lay back down on the bed and closed my eyes, thinking to myself that I had been far too greedy. The night had grown deep. I hadn't waited for Ji Wangchuan, but I did end up waiting for his parents. As soon as Mrs. Zhou saw me, her heart ached and she began wiping away tears. "Poor Wan, how did you get hurt so badly?" Seeing my hospital room completely empty, Uncle Zhou's eyebrows furrowed into a deep frown. "Where is Ji Wangchuan? You're this badly hurt, and instead of staying by your side, where the hell has he run off to?" The genuine concern from Uncle and Aunt Zhou made my heart ache with a bittersweet pang, after my own parents passed away. Uncle and Aunt Zhou truly treated me as their own daughter. I've always been obedient, but this time I have to go against their wishes. I propped myself up and said to the elderly couple solemnly, "Uncle, Auntie, let's just call off the engagement between Ji Wangchuan and me. In a few days, I'll apply for a transfer to Dongqing. I will always remember all the care and kindness you've shown me over the years, Mrs." Zhou was taken aback and quickly stepped forward to hold my arm. Wan. "Don't be hasty, Dongqing is at the ends of the earth. How will a young girl like you manage to live there all by yourself? Did that rascal Ji Wangchuan hurt you by saving that Song girl first this time? Don't you worry, dear, I'll give him a proper talking to. Wangchuan truly cares for you. The moment he heard about your leg injury, he had us contact the city hospital right away. He's just confused for the moment. Please don't leave in a huff. In my past life." After Song Qingqiu passed away and Ji Wangchuan was utterly grief-stricken, they tried to console me with these very same words. In the end, I endured 50 years of a hollow, loveless marriage, and in the end, everyone came to regret it. As I returned Mrs. Zhou's handshake, I spoke softly, "Auntie, Wangchuan doesn't have me in his heart. A forced marriage is no good. I don't want to get married like this. If he were to marry me under these circumstances, I can already imagine how miserable our marriage would be. He would spend his whole life pining for the one he truly loves, and I don't want to see him live unhappily." At this point, I had to stop, struggling to hold back the overwhelming surge of grief. Mrs. Zhou sighed, Once you're married, Wangchuan will come to see how wonderful you are." I wiped the tears from the corner of my eye and shook my head with a smile. "Uncle, Aunt, love isn't something that can be forced with time. I don't want to pressure him, let's just call it off." Mr. and Mrs. Zhou exchanged a long look, then let out a deep, heavy sigh. Mrs. Zhou wiped her tears. "It's our Zhou family's misfortune, in the end, that we weren't blessed enough to have a wonderful daughter-in-law like Wan. Mr. Zhou patted my shoulder. "Once you're in East City, if you have any difficulties at all, you must contact us. Your aunt and I will always be your family." My tears instantly spilled over, and I hugged Mrs. Zhou. "Okay, thank you, Uncle and Auntie." I lay awake all night. Early the next morning, I was wheeled into the operating room. I never imagined that a miscarriage could hurt more than childbirth. The doctor inserted the forceps into me and began to move them around. I trembled with pain, biting down hard on my lip. This pain takes me back to the night I gave birth in a past life. I was carrying twins, and I labored for a full day and night before delivering just one child. The doctor said if I couldn't deliver within the hour, both the baby and I would be in mortal danger, but I had simply run out of strength. Zhou Wangchuan gripped my hand tightly. Wan, please, you have to keep trying. I can't lose you and the baby. I'm begging you, please, just a little more effort." He was actually crying. It was only the second time I'd ever seen him shed tears. The first was when Song Qingqiu died. Seeing his tears, I suddenly found a renewed strength and pushed with all my might, finally bringing our child into the world. Zhou Wangchuan held my sweat-drenched body, his tears falling onto my shoulder. Wan, let's not have children, we won't have any more. I'm scared of losing you." Back then, I naively believed that Zhou Wangchuan had feelings for me, but later, his "no more children" meant he never touched me again. The surgery only lasted half an hour, but it felt like several lifetimes had passed. The nurse wheeled me back to the ward, and I mustered the last of my strength to call the director of the cotton mill to request a transfer. Since I was the orphan of a revolutionary martyr, the director agreed without a moment's hesitation. He told me to report for duty within the next few days. After hanging up, I collapsed onto the hospital bed, quietly feeling the second red line fade away. "This is how it should be," I muttered to myself in the empty hospital room. They were just an accident, those two children. They were never meant to be in this world. But then my heart seized violently, a pain so sharp it doubled me over. I clenched the corner of the bedsheet between my teeth. But the floodgates had opened, tears poured down uncontrollably. I had killed my own children with my own hands. I don't know how long it was before I cried myself to exhaustion and fell asleep. I was jolted awake by a roar of fury. 5. Meng Wan. Zhou Wangchuan yanked me up with such force it felt like he would crush my wrist. "When the fire broke out, you told me to save Qingqiu first. I actually thought you'd changed for the better. I never expected you were setting me up here. All because I didn't bring you those damned flowers. You went and complained to my parents, turning them against Qingqiu. now she's slit her wrists, the hospital blood bank doesn't have enough supply, and she's still fighting for her life in the ER. Are you happy now? It took me a few seconds to process what Zhou Wangchuan had said. In my past life, Song Qingqiu died in that fire. In this life, I made sure Zhou Wangchuan saved her. And I even called off our engagement. So why would she still attempt suicide? I was just wondering how to sever this third thread of life-saving debt. Well, this is perfect timing. I struggled to sit up in the hospital bed. So, you think I drove her to suicide? Ji Wangchuan was stunned, as if he hadn't expected me to confront it so bluntly. His tone grew even sharper. Am I wrong? Qingqiu is fighting for her life right now. You should be on your knees outside the operating room, begging for forgiveness. He wheeled my entire hospital bed right up to the operating room doors. The nurse was rushing around, frantic to get more blood. She said to Ji Wangchuan, the patient has lost too much blood, we're running low on type B in the blood bank. Hurry and see if you can find anyone with the same blood type to donate. Transferring from another facility will take time, and the patient is fading fast. I tugged on the nurse's sleeve. I'm type B. Take mine. The nurse's face lit up with hope. That's wonderful. The patient has a chance, but we need at least 400 milliliters. You look so pale. Are you sure you can handle it? No. Ji Wangchuan knocked my hand away, his voice sharp with refusal. I'll find someone else. There's no need for you to play the hero. 400 milliliters of blood. You're so frail. Are you trying to kill yourself? The nurse urged anxiously, but the patient is hanging by a thread. They don't have much time. Ji Wangchuan looked toward the operating room, his eyes brimming with anguish. I understood the urgency in his eyes right then. I gently tugged on the nurse's sleeve again and said softly, I can handle it. I'm willing to donate. The nurse looked at me. Have you had any major surgery recently? If you have, it could take a serious toll. Even if you haven't, it will still be very long text to test the formatting and see if it wraps correctly in the output. Let's add more words to ensure it's sufficiently long. The nurse looked at me. Have you had any major surgery recently? If you have, it could take a serious toll. Even if you haven't, it will still be very draining. Ji Wangchuan gripped my wrist tightly once more, his brow furrowed. After a dozen seconds, he released my hand and pushed me into the blood draw room. He tucked the blanket tightly around me. I owe you for this. I'll make it up to you properly. After he left, the doctor began to draw blood. As blood flowed ceaselessly from my body, my consciousness began to fade. In that hazy moment, I suddenly remembered that night with Ji Wangchuan. It was over a month ago. He was utterly, hopelessly drunk. Mrs. Zhou had asked me to bring him a cup of honey water to sober him up, but then he pulled me into his arms, and everything spiraled out of control. Since our engagement, Zhou Wangchuan and I have only held hands once. He kissed my lips and my neck with urgent passion. The air was thick with the smell of liquor, and it even managed to intoxicate me. I even found myself replacing the name Qingqiu that slipped from his lips with Wanwan, a night of chaos and pain. Yet for me, it was indescribably beautiful. The next day, he vowed he would marry me and protect me, and he kept that promise, protecting me for 50 years, right up until his final moment. But deep down, I always knew that night was something I had stolen. Now, I must set everything right and sever all ties between him and me. 6. The vessel slowly filled with blood, and I could hold on no longer before passing out. In the final second before I blacked out, I remembered once more the finality in his dying vow from our past life, that we would never meet again, in life or death. Tears fell uncontrollably. Brother Wangchuan, in this lifetime, I won't cling to you anymore. When I woke up again, I was back in the same hospital room. I must have slept for a long time. It was already the afternoon of the third day. It was time for me to go. I called for a nurse and borrowed a phone. Shortly after the call ended, Zhou Wangchuan came in carrying a thermal container. It was a full pot of thick, nourishing red date porridge, clearly not something you'd get from a restaurant. I picked up a spoon and took a taste. Did you make this? Zhou Wangchuan turned his head away, but his tone was gentle. I added a lot of red dates. The doctor said they're great for building blood. Qingqiu is out of danger now. Thank you. I took a big mouthful of porridge and looked at Ji Wangchuan. Brother Wangchuan, if it had been someone else who fell in the water a year ago, you would have saved them too, right? He was taken aback for a moment, then nodded. Yes, it's my duty. A sharp pain pierced my heart, and tears welled up in my eyes. Yet, I put on my brightest smile. Then there's no need to thank me. Saving Song Qingqiu was something I should have done too. Brother Wangchuan, you saved my life a year ago. Now I've saved the life of the one you love. I suppose my debt of gratitude is finally repaid. This is where our shared fate ends. I was foolish before. After my parents sacrificed themselves, I clung to you relentlessly. I wanted a family so desperately, and I leaned on you too much. Forcing you to marry me must have caused you so much pain. Didn't it? It won't happen again. I'll change. I'm breaking the habit of loving you and following you. I won't marry him and have children with him. He won't be forced to give up the woman he loves, nor will he have to endure 50 years of a miserable marriage, and he certainly won't lose his life trying to save mine. A flicker of panic shot through Zhou Wanchuan's heart. He had just begun to speak when the nurse cut him off. Comrade Ji. Comrade Song is awake and keeps calling your name. I saw the light that instantly ignited in his eyes, a brilliance I had never received. He rose hastily, yet hesitated and looked back at me. Go ahead, I said with a smile, tears spilling uncontrollably down my cheeks. She needs you more. Ji Wanchuan stood rooted to the spot, his Adam's apple bobbing a few times. Wan, wait for me. Brother Wanchuan, I interrupted him, my voice as light as a feather. In this lifetime, you must be happy. He froze, then spoke with unease. What's this talk of happiness? We have our whole lives ahead of us. You rest now. Be good, I'll be back soon. There's something I need to tell you. With that, he turned and left, his footsteps fading away down the corridor. I gently touched my ring finger. There would be no more after this. The third red thread was severed, completely and finally. I settled into the wheelchair and left the hospital, just as expected. There was a vast field of sunflowers in full bloom at the hospital entrance. Their golden glow was so warm and radiant, but I never did receive my own bouquet of sunflowers. After comforting Song Qingqiu, Zhou Wanchuan immediately rushed back to the ward, but there was no one in sight. He decided to go look for her. Just then, the nurse on her rounds came in. Seeing the empty bed, she frowned and asked him, "Where is Comrade Meng? She just had an abortion procedure and is still very weak. She shouldn't be out of bed." 7. Zhou Wanchuan stood at the doorway of the hospital room, a dull ringing in his ears. An abortion? What abortion? The nurse was startled by his suddenly ashen face, her voice trembling. It was the procedure the morning before yesterday. Comrade Meng insisted on the abortion. A child, their child. Zhou Wanchuan's breath hitched, his vision swimming with black spots. He suddenly remembered her pale face that day, the slight tremor in her fingertips as she had her blood drawn. There had been so many signs, yet he had failed to notice any of them, and at that moment, he actually forced her to save Song Qingqiu. Zhou Wanchuan muttered to himself, she had just lost our child, and I forced her to donate 400 milliliters of blood. The nurse was horrified. 400 milliliters? You drew 400 milliliters of blood from her right after a miscarriage? Are you insane? Her body couldn't possibly handle that. His eyes reddened. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'm so sorry, it's all my fault. Zhou Wanchuan's fist slammed into the wall, his knuckles immediately splitting and oozing blood. He remembered her lying weakly in the hospital bed, forcing a smile. He remembered the resolute glint in her eyes when she whispered, "Brother Wanchuan, you must be happy in this life." It suddenly dawned on Zhou Wanchuan that she had planned to leave all along. She would abort their child, and vanish completely from his life, carrying all her wounds with her. Where is she now? He grabbed the nurse by the shoulders, startled by his bloodshot eyes. The nurse stammered, We don't know." Zhou Wanchuan turned and rushed out the door, only to collide with his parents hurrying down the corridor. "Dad, Mom." He looked up, meeting their ashen faces. "Mr." Zhou's hand shot out, delivering a sharp slap. The crisp sound echoed down the hallway. "You worthless scoundrel." "Mrs." Zhou's eyes were red-rimmed as she tremblingly handed over an envelope. Wanwan had someone deliver this. Zhou Wanchuan's hand shook as he opened it. Inside was an emerald green ring, my engagement ring to him. "Brother Wanchun, the debt of saving my life is repaid. We are even now. May you and Comrade Qingqiu grow old together in happiness." Wanwan, where did she go? Zhou Wanchuan asked, his voice trembling. "So now you ask, Mr." Zhou sneered. The transfer order for Dongqing was approved this morning. No sooner had he spoken than Zhou Wanchuan bolted from the room. From the end of the corridor came his anguished shout, "Get the car ready." To the train station, watching his son's retreating figure. "Mr." Zhou let out a heavy sigh. If only I had known. 8. But by the time he stumbled into the train station, the train was already pulling away. Inside the carriage, Meng Xingzhou carefully lifted me onto the sleeper berth and thoughtfully placed a soft pillow behind my back. He was the orphan my late father adopted. The boy who used to follow me around calling me big sister is now a head taller than me. Here, have some soup, he said, opening the thermos. A rich, savory aroma instantly filled the air. I simmered it for 5 hours. As I looked into his bloodshot eyes, a memory from a past life suddenly came flooding back. During all those years when my own children wanted nothing to do with me, Xingzhou was the only one who visited me regularly. Always bringing a pot of soup just like this. Silly boy, I said, ruffling his messy hair. It's not that serious. He stubbornly scooped up a spoonful of soup and gently blew on it to cool it down. The doctor said it'll take at least 6 months to recover. His voice suddenly caught. That bastard Zhou Wangchuan. If I ever see him again, I swear I'll beat the Xingzhou. I cut him off, taking the soup bowl. It's all in the past. I won't be looking back. The train carriage fell silent. He turned around, pulled a bouquet of sunflowers from his backpack, found an empty jar to put them in, and clumsily arranged it on the narrow table. Back at the hospital, he insisted on picking a huge bunch of sunflowers for me to hold. I laughed and tried to stop him. We're not at home yet. He stubbornly adjusted the angle of the flower branch and spoke softly. Because you like it. I was stunned, and tears suddenly welled up. So there was still someone in this world who remembered that Meng Wanwan loved sunflowers most, not the bouquet Zhou Wangchuan forgot to pick, nor the patch just out of reach outside the hospital window. It was this bouquet, picked just for me, with every stem carefully arranged at just the right angle. On the platform, Zhou Wangchuan charged onto the platform like a madman, pounding on the windows of each carriage. His uniform was crumpled, and tear stains were still wet on his face. Wanwan. But the train was already picking up speed, pulling away into the distance. He fell to his knees, weeping bitterly. It seems he has lost Meng Wanwan. 9. When Zhou Wangchuan found me, the kapok trees in the East District were in full, fiery bloom. He stood at the foot of the textile mill dormitory, his uniform crumpled, holding a bunch of wilted sunflowers in his arms. It had been 3 months. He was so thin his cheekbones stood out sharply, with dark circles shadowing his eyes. Wanwan. His voice was a ragged, broken whisper. I'm sorry I'm late. Getting the transfer approved was difficult. I sat in my wheelchair, the ball of yarn slipping from my hand and rolling onto the floor. He immediately crouched down to pick it up, moving so hastily that his knee cracked hard against the concrete. Seeing him so dejected made my heart ache. He reached out as if to touch my knee beneath the blanket, but his hand froze mid-air. Does your leg still hurt? I shook my head. It doesn't hurt anymore. Xingzhou found a specialist for me here. By the way, how is Comrade Qingqiu? His Adam's apple bobbed as he pulled a letter from his coat. Wanwan. There's nothing between us. I had her write this letter to explain. Brother Wangchuan, I said softly, cutting him off. It's all right. I know better than anyone that the one you love isn't me. Don't let me get in the way of your relationship. Comrade Qingqiu is a wonderful person. I wish you both happiness. A petal landed on his shoulder. My hand instinctively moved to brush it away, but I stopped myself. I looked into his bloodshot eyes. There's no future for us, but you and Qingqiu still have a long, good life ahead of you. Zhou Wangchuan shook his head, his voice choked. No, that's not it. That day you asked me if I would have saved you if it wasn't you who fell into the water. I know the answer now. His tears fell onto the back of my hand. I would save anyone, but only you. Only you make me afraid. He unbuttoned his collar, revealing a vicious scar beneath his collarbone. I got this saving Qingqiu in the fire, but you know what? The whole time, all I could think was, I had to get to you. I was terrified that 1 second later would be too late. In the distance, a bicycle bell chimed as Meng Xingzhou returned from the canteen, a lunchbox in hand. He jogged over, but came to an abrupt halt the moment he saw the scene. Zhou Wangchuan seemed oblivious, with his forehead pressed against the back of my hand. His warm tears soaked through my sleeve. It's always been you. I was just too stupid to realize it until I lost you. Wanwan, can you give me another chance? I looked into his bloodshot eyes and remembered how, in our past life, he had pulled off his wedding ring on his deathbed. The tears back then were just as scalding. Brother Wangchuan, I gently withdrew my hand and brushed the petals from his shoulder. It's all in the past now. Meng Xingzhou suddenly coughed. Sis, dinner's here. Zhou Wangchuan stood up. I won't push you. I'll come back tomorrow. That won't be necessary, I said softly, refusing. Xingzhou will take care of me. He stood there, his shadow stretching long in the setting sun. Even as the boatman pushed me around the corner of the corridor, I could still feel that gaze, heavy and searing, branded onto my back. Zhou Wangchuan came by a few more times after that. Sometimes he brought a packet of brown sugar, other times a few medicated plasters. Once, during a torrential downpour, he stood downstairs all night. The next morning, he was carried away by his colleagues, burning up with a high fever. Gradually, I realized I was starting to forget Zhou Wangchuan. The first time I realized it was when I pointed at the person standing downstairs and asked Xingzhou, "Who is that person? Is he waiting for someone? Why has he been standing outside our building?" Meng Xingzhou's eyes widened as he shot back, "Don't you remember him?" It suddenly dawned on me that I must know him. I can remember everyone perfectly, yet they all say I've forgotten only him. The strangest part is, everyone insists I've forgotten someone, but no one can tell me who that person is. I have a vague memory of making a deal with someone. I think this might be the price of that exchange. One day, Meng Xingzhou suddenly cupped my face in his hands and studied me. "Wan," he said, "why have you been staring at your ring finger so much lately?" I looked down in a daze, only to find my right hand repeatedly stroking the ring finger of my left hand. It felt as if something had once been there, yet I was certain I had never worn a ring. I smiled at him and said, "What do you think? I always feel like my ring finger is missing something." He hugged me shyly and said, Soon. Not long after, Xingzhou proposed to me, and I was overjoyed. I was trying on wedding dresses the afternoon I met that man. A tall figure stood outside the shop window, the sunlight gilding his silhouette. "Wan," he called to me through the glass. I smiled politely. "Comrade, do we know each other?" His expression froze instantly. At that moment, Meng Xingzhou rushed out and grabbed him. "Zhou Wangchuan, you promised you wouldn't show up again." Zhou Wangchuan. I repeated the name silently in my mind. 3 days later, as I waited for Meng Xingzhou under the kapok tree, he came again. This time, he was in casual clothes, holding a faded sunflower specimen in his hands. I noticed a vicious scar just below his collarbone. He suddenly spoke up. "On March 28, 1971, the day of the cotton mill fire, you said, if you save Song Qingqiu first, you won't regret it for the rest of your life." I blinked in confusion. With trembling hands, he pulled a jade-green ring from his breast pocket. "But I've come to regret it, comrade," I cut him off. "You've truly mistaken me for someone else." His expression shattered. A long moment passed, and then he was gone. A year later, at my wedding reception, I saw Song Qingqiu. "Comrade Qingqiu, why are you standing out in the sun? Please, come in and sit down." I stepped outside and looked in surprise at Song Qingqiu, who stood pale-faced at the door. She was clutching a manila envelope, her gaze fixed on the wedding ring on my finger. "Wan, do you really not remember him?" Her voice trembled. "Zhou Wangchuan, the director of the cotton mill." "Who?" I blinked in confusion. "The new technician." Song Qingqiu stared at me intently. "You remember me, you remember Meng Xingzhou, you remember Uncle and Aunt Zhou, but you've forgotten him." I saw a tall figure in the distance shrink back. "I really don't remember. If I've forgotten him, then he probably wasn't that important to me." Song Qingqiu began to sob. "He's dead, last week, lung cancer." It was only 3 months from diagnosis to the end. The sunlight suddenly grew harsh. Squinting, I saw the edge of an envelope peeking from between her fingers, its border a somber black. It was an obituary notice. I gave Song Qingqiu a gentle hug. "My condolences." I turned and saw Meng Xingzhou waiting for me to propose a toast. I walked over and took his arm. "Time, once gone, will never return. The past and those we've lost can never be reclaimed." Extra. 3 months after Wan left, I received my transfer orders. The Dongqing textile mill. Father slammed the transfer papers on the table. "Have you lost your mind? You're throwing away a brilliant future in the provincial capital for some backwater town." I said calmly, "I have to go." Wan is there." Mother's eyes welled up with tears. "Wangchuan, Wan is already. She'll forgive me." I cut my mother off. A tremor in my voice I hadn't even noticed. "She's always had a soft heart." My father let out a heavy sigh. "What good will going there do? She didn't even want the child." Those words cut into my heart like a knife. That's right, she didn't even want our child, the child who should have been born next spring, the child who would have called me daddy. I clenched my fist, my nails digging deep into my palm. "I will bring her back." But after meeting her just once, she refused to see me again. I waited downstairs at her place, and once again, a sudden, torrential downpour caught me off guard. I longed for her to come out and see me, but she never did. After the torrential rain, I fell into a coma. I had a very long dream. In it, Song Qingqiu died in that fire, and I married Wan. I saw that on our golden wedding anniversary, she was wearing a newly made qipao, tentatively asking if I wanted to take a photo together, and I refused without even looking up, saying, "There's no need." I saw her sitting in the wheelchair, staring blankly at a photo of me and Song Qingqiu from our youth. Those once bright eyes had grown dim, like glass clouded with dust. I saw the car coming. I pushed her out of the way, but was sent flying by the impact. Yet in the end, I said to her, "Meng Wanwan, if only I hadn't saved you first back then." No, that's not how it was. I was screaming in my dream, but no one could hear me. When I woke up, my mother was sitting by the bed, wiping away tears. "Wan Chuan, please let Wanwan go," mother said. "She lost a child for you, gave her blood, and broke her leg. That's more than enough to repay the debt of saving your life, a child." The child she and I had in my dream. My vision kept fading to black. Before that fire, Wanwan and I spent a night together. She came to bring me sobering soup. I was hopelessly drunk and wouldn't let her go. The next day, I promised to marry her, unaware she was already carrying our child. Yet there she was, lying alone on the operating table, giving up that little life, and I actually forced her, fresh from a miscarriage, to donate blood for Song Qingqiu. "You monster." I slapped myself hard across the face, hard enough to draw blood from the corner of my mouth. My mother was so frightened she grabbed my hand, but I couldn't stop myself from laughing until tears streamed down my face. In both of my lives, I have failed her. In my past life, I tormented her with emotional neglect for 50 years. In this life, I caused her to lose her child, her health, and in the end, even her memories. Yes, her memories. My colleagues in Dongqing told me that Wanwan remembers everyone, except for me. The doctor said it's psychogenic amnesia, the brain's way of protecting itself from extreme trauma. I should have let go, yet, every time I try to give up, memories of my past life torment me in my dreams. In that other world, Wanwan loved me until her dying breath. In this world, Wanwan chose to punish me with oblivion. Later, I learned that Wanwan was to marry Meng Xingzhou. Upon hearing the news, I coughed up a mouthful of blood. My mother rushed me to the hospital. It's advanced stage lung cancer. I broke down laughing in the hospital. What right do I have to keep fighting now? I wanted to see Wanwan in her wedding dress one more time, but my condition took a sudden turn for the worse. In the end, I thought I saw Wanwan again. "Wanwan, in our next life, let me be the one to love you." The end. Midnight. As I finished my day's work and was about to wash up and go to bed, I received a text message from Drake Jiang. "Working late tonight, won't be back, you should sleep early." This wasn't the first time he came home late, but it was the first time he greeted me. My cold heart warmed slightly. Just thinking about him still working overtime so late at night must be exhausting, so I immediately got up to cook him some porridge and side dishes, then took a taxi to deliver them to his office. Drake Jiang is the president of a listed company with a net worth of billions. Usually too busy with work to come home often. Before he sent me this message, he hadn't come home to sleep for half a month straight. I am an independent illustrator who later gave up my career for marriage. Until half a month ago, a company in the industry approached me about collaborating on a project. Once the project succeeds, I'll receive a generous reward. I happily agreed and took the opportunity to invite Drake Jiang for a candlelit dinner to celebrate, but in the end, I waited at the restaurant until closing time without seeing him, so I couldn't help but call to complain. But unexpectedly, it was a woman who answered the phone. On the phone, the man's panting and the woman's moans intertwined, which was truly unpleasant to hear. No matter how unwilling I was to admit it, I had no choice but to accept one fact. The man's panting on the phone sounded exactly like my husband's voice. I took this phone recording and confronted Drake Jiang the next day, demanding an explanation. To my surprise, he didn't even bother pretending and outright admitted it was him. Because of this incident, I caused a scene at his company. In the end, Drake Jiang refused to see me or speak to me, and so, we were in a cold war for half a month. Tonight, it was the first text message he sent me since our Cold War began half a month ago. Perhaps this was a sign that he wanted to make up, so my heart uncontrollably soared again, since it was after work hours. I smoothly made my way to the CEO's office without any obstacles. Standing in front of the door, I straightened my clothes and prepared to knock. My raised hand hadn't even had time to fall. From inside the office came a woman's soft moans and a man's heavy panting. Amidst these intermittent sounds, I heard the woman's coquettish voice, "Who makes you feel better, me or her?" followed immediately by continuous, breathless moans. Finally, I heard the man's voice say, "In bed." Ivywind can't compare to you. Hearing this, my suspended heart instantly died cleanly, thoroughly. In the end, I didn't knock on that door and turned back home. Strangely, this time I was calmer than ever before. Normally, I would have done everything to break that door down and pulled the two apart like a madman, then ended up screaming and asking Drake Jeong why he would do this to me. But today, I suddenly lost the mood for it, accepting everything with eerie calmness. Even strangely thinking, this has nothing to do with me, I poured the food into the trash can. In the middle of the night, half asleep, I felt someone pull me into their arms, my nose pressed against the man's broad, firm chest. His low voice lingered by my ear. Sorry for keeping you waiting. I had to work late. The thought of him being entangled with another woman just moments ago made my skin crawl, so I pretended to turn over in my sleep, moving as far away from him as possible. The next morning, to my surprise, I saw Drake Jeong's figure in the kitchen. When I woke up, he saw me getting up and brought over a plate of sandwiches. Drake Jeong, having been pampered since childhood, naturally couldn't cook, and the only thing he could manage was sandwiches. In the past, to encourage him, I would always finish the sandwiches he made and loudly praise them with exaggerated compliments. My husband's sandwiches are the most delicious in the world, but now, I don't want to pretend anymore, so I let him handle it himself. Unexpectedly, he stood motionless at the kitchen door, holding the sandwich. I found it a bit odd, but since I still had to discuss the collaboration with the client today, I didn't want to waste time with him. He hastily threw on a coat and headed out. Unexpectedly, he flung the plate and bread onto the floor, the glass shattering with a loud crash. Then he pulled me back and pinned me against the corner of the wall. His gaze turned completely icy. What do you mean? What do I mean? I almost couldn't hold back from cursing. I don't want to play with you anymore. Alright. In the past, before he went to work, I would always act coquettishly, making him kiss me, or else I wouldn't let him go. He always looked impatient. Now I don't cry or make a fuss. Nor do I delay or disturb you. Shouldn't you be happy about that? I looked at him strangely. I'm not hungry. Why do you insist on me eating? Also, I pointed at the clock on the wall. You're going to be late for work. He backed me into a corner, staring at me intently, his eyes clouded with confusion, as if wondering why I was acting so unusually today. I let him look me over for 2 minutes, then pushed him away. My tone was indifferent. President Jeong, I'm going to be late for my client meeting. I majored in design in college. After marrying Drake Jeong, I voluntarily gave up my career to focus on homemaking and raising children. For 5 years of marriage, my entire life revolved around Drake Jeong. Every day, I would think about what meals to cook for him, what clothes to buy him, and what to say to make him happy. I had no personal space of my own and no income. No wonder people look down on me like this. My client is a man 3 years older than me, who has a keen sense of the illustration market. He accidentally came across my old portfolio online and specifically invited me to collaborate on a new project. In the past, I would have thought this would take away time from being with Drake Jeong and would have refused without hesitation. But times have changed now. After the failure of my marriage, I must make a comeback in my career. The negotiation for cooperation went very well, and the client paid a deposit of $12,000 upfront. After sealing the deal, I accompanied the client to dinner. On my way to the restroom, I happened to see a man and a woman passionately kissing at the dimly lit end of the long corridor. The woman spotted me first and playfully feigned shyness, burying her face in the man's arms. Her voice was sugary sweet, drawing out the words "Brother Drake" in a long, coquettish tone. I remained silent, pretending not to see them, and walked past the pair with an expressionless face. Having drunk too much with clients earlier, my head was now throbbing and my mind foggy. I splashed some cold water on my face, and my mind cleared considerably. It dawned on me belatedly that the male lead in the drama outside the door just now seemed to be Drake Jeong. He must be very pleased that his wife no longer made a scene as she used to, saving him from losing face in front of his little lover. I am also very happy. From tonight onward, I will no longer be a clinging vine dependent on anyone for growth, and my emotions will no longer fluctuate for anyone. I am just me. Coming out of the bathroom, I saw Drake Jeong but not Tess Liu. He was smoking, the ember at his fingertips casting a faint glow in the dim space. After a moment's thought, I greeted him politely. Hey, President Jeong, you're using the restroom too, President Jeong. He murmured the words again, then stubbed out the cigarette between his fingers, pinned me against the wall, pressed my hands above my head, and slowly leaned in closer. His voice was low and husky. what's the fuss this time, huh? With clear eyes, I retorted unhurriedly, I've had an upset stomach these past few days. Usually, your head is so full of shit it's clouded your vision. It's my fault for misjudging people. Today I've cleared everything out. And finally see clearly whether the one standing before me is human or a dog. Drake Jiang thought I was throwing a tantrum, letting out a few low chuckles as he patted my head like I was a dog. And then, what will you do now that you see clearly, Ivy, when you have no father or mother? What makes you think you can leave me? Drake Jiang was right. I lost both parents at a young age and grew up relying on the kindness of others. Fortunately, I was a good student, and from elementary school onward, the school waived all my tuition and fees by default. In college, I relied on student loans for all 4 years. After graduation, because I had no income, it was Drake Jiang who repaid the loan for me. I sighed deeply and silently, pulling my arm free from his grip. I took out my phone and transferred the advance payment from today's client to him. My total college loan was 32,000 yuan. Here's 12,000. Take it first. I'll pay you back the rest next month. As soon as I finished speaking, Drake Jiang's face visibly darkened. But I didn't have time to worry about his feelings right now. My client was getting impatient, so I hurriedly said goodbye and turned to leave. Drake Jiang and I are in a cold war again, but unlike before, I won't go chasing after him anymore. In the past, whenever Drake Jiang didn't reply to my messages or said something harsh to me, I would burst into tears, then frantically search for someone, followed by red-eyed interrogations with chat records in hand, and finally cling to him for kisses and hugs seeking reassurance. This cycle repeated itself hundreds of times, putting myself in his shoes. If I were Drake Jiang, I'd be fed up too. Fortunately now, Drake Jiang has sailed past countless mountains. His light boat has traversed 10,000 peaks. He ignores me, and I don't seek him out. Each of us is content, both happy in our own lives. I continue to focus on my career. The successful collaboration with my first client helped me build a considerable network. I opened my own studio, handling promotions and accepting commissions independently. There was a customer who was extremely picky and difficult, nitpicking every detail of the finalized draft. Hoping to resolve things amicably, I went to his studio to meet and discuss. Despite the scorching heat and an empty stomach, I waited from 1 p.m. until 8 p.m. In the end, all I got was a message saying, "I don't want the draft anymore," followed by being blocked. Overwhelmed with frustration and nowhere to vent, I bought a box of fried rice, sat on the roadside flower bed, and ate while tears streamed down my face. Fortune never comes in pairs, but misfortune never comes alone. Tess Lu walked past me, arm in arm with Drake Jiang, carrying numerous bags in her hands. The two who had already walked by turned back for some unknown reason. They stood right in front of me. The first voice I heard was Tess Lu's sarcastic remark, "Oh, Drake, how did your Ivy Win end up in such a state?" I kept my head down, silently eating my fried rice. Drake Jiang crouched in front of me, his expression haughty, his eyes filled with mockery. "Ivy Wen, I told you, you can't survive without me." I looked up at him. Through his eyes, I saw tears still lingering in my own eyes. My long hair disheveled, my eyes bloodshot. Even so, I didn't want to lose my composure in front of him, so I stubbornly threw out harsh words. "Just wait and see. Ever since I started my own studio, I haven't returned to Drake Jiang's villa. During the day, I rush to meet deadlines at the studio, and at night, I sleep on the floor there." Through my persistent efforts, my studio has finally started to show a bit of progress. I transferred the remaining tens of thousands in student loan debt, including principal and interest, to Drake Jiang. Unexpectedly, not only did he not accept it, but he also sent me 500,000. Below it was a line of message: "Take this money and treat yourself to something nice." The wealthy lady of the Jiang family sitting by the roadside eating at a cheap stall. What a disgraceful sight. I expressionlessly transferred the 500,000 back. He sent a question mark. "President Jiang, please note voluntary gift," before transferring the money to me. "Otherwise it'll be difficult to divide the assets in case of divorce." He immediately followed up with, "No one would turn down money. Of course, I am too. As the nominal wife of Drake Jiang, I know full well that if it ever comes to divorce and asset division, a weak and inexperienced person like me would be no match for the powerful legal team of the Jiang family. I might end up losing everything, so, while I still can, I need to build up my own financial foundation." With the 500,000, I immediately went to the bank to buy gold. My studio has gained some reputation, and more clients are approaching me for collaborations. A gaming company reached out to me, asking me to design character illustrations for their game, and they paid a 100,000 yuan deposit up front. I was secretly delighted, thinking this was a big opportunity, so I worked tirelessly day and night to complete the drafts. Finally, the day before the submission deadline, I handed the manuscript to the client. The client invited me to dinner. Overjoyed, I freshened up and arrived at the agreed location at the appointed time, but I never expected, the person in charge of the client's project turned out to be Tess Lu. At the large round table for 18, she sat at the head, her fingers deftly twirled the wine glass, her words dripping with disdain. Whose character design is this? It's so ugly. Is the account manager blind? Bringing such trash into the company. I sat by the door, silently eating my meal. But inside, I was already seething with anger. The work I poured my heart into for half a month of sleepless nights meant nothing in the eyes of these high-ranking superiors. Someone eagerly forced a smile. It was my incompetence in handling the matter. After speaking, they turned back and angrily scolded, "Whoever found this client, go to HR later and resign on your own." The guy sitting next to me is the one they called incompetent. He clutched his wine glass tightly, veins bulging on the back of his hand. Just as I was about to say something, he stood up. He first punished himself with 3 glasses of wine, then humbly apologized. "Sorry, Sister Lu, it was my incompetence, but I still have mortgage and car loans to pay, and my wife is still in postpartum confinement. Could you give me a chance?" Tess Lu curled her lips into a mocking smile. She walked over to the young man, slowly placing her hand on his shoulder while sweeping her gaze over me. Her eyes curved in a seductive smile, her voice was soft, yet it sent chills down the spine, like the cold, slippery hiss of a venomous snake whispering in one's ear. "Do you think you're Ivy Wen, whose trash work still gets covered by CEO Jiang? You messed things up, and still expect the company to give you another chance. Why should they?" At this point, her tone took a sharp turn, her delicate features hardening with ruthlessness. "Or you could jump from here. The company might consider giving your family a substantial compensation." The young man slowly, incredulously, raised his head, locking eyes with Tess Lu. Perhaps he couldn't believe that after 10 years of slaving away for the company, all he got in return was his boss telling him to drop dead. No one at the table dared to speak up. They all knew about Tess Lu's relationship with President Jiang. No one would risk offending a top executive for the sake of an insignificant employee. In the tense atmosphere, Tess Lu suddenly laughed, like a crimson flower bursting open, dripping with bright red blood. "Or you could kneel and beg me." "Oh, of course, crawling between my legs would work too. Perhaps I could spare you a place." Tess Lu is trying to intimidate me. She knows that as long as I don't divorce Drake Jiang, she can never openly touch me, so she chose this way to humiliate me. The young man's face flushed red, the corners of his eyes also turning crimson. His fingers clenched tightly into fists, as if he was undergoing an extremely intense internal struggle. I averted my gaze from the young man, picking up the wine glass on the table. I pulled Tess Lu over, pour it down with a backhand, eyes locked. I gave a cold smirk. "Tess Lu, you're just a dog raised by Drake Jiang. Really think you're the master now?" In the silent private room, a crisp sound of applause suddenly came from the doorway. Clap, 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 as the applause faded. A large group of people in the room stood up in unison. They bowed respectfully, bending at the waist and nodding their heads. President Jiang. When Tess Lu saw Drake Jiang, it was as if she had spotted a savior. She bypassed me, took a step to Drake Jiang's side, and snuggled into his arms as if boneless, coquettishly acting spoiled. With such a girlish demeanor, who could connect her to the venomous woman from just moments ago? I sighed inwardly. I never had acting skills as good as Tess Lu's. Otherwise Drake Jiang wouldn't have despised me to this extent. I handed the paper to the guy, having accidentally splashed some wine on him earlier. "Are you okay?" The young man lowered his head and kept retreating, saying, "Mrs. Wen, please don't make things difficult for us working class folks with the games you rich play among yourselves." The private room fell into silence as everyone quietly watched the interaction between the young man and me, pretending to be completely unaware. I firmly pulled the young man over and wiped the wine stains off his clothes for him. "There's no need to be so submissive. I see you have great talent, and more importantly, good judgment. If you don't mind, you can come to my studio. I'll take care of you. I won't make things difficult for you, nor will I withhold your salary." Since I was standing with my back to Drake Jiang, I completely missed how his face darkened to the color of liver after I said those words. No one else in the private room dared to even breathe loudly, even Tess Lu, sensing the icy aura around Drake Jiang, slowly straightened up, not daring to be presumptuous anymore. The young man, seeing the look in Drake Jiang's eyes, stood trembling in place, too scared to move. After wiping the stain off for him, I turned around to see Drake Jiang staring at me intently. I pretended to be surprised and clapped my hands. President Jiang, what brings you here? Oh my, please have a seat, have a seat. I pulled him onto the chair to sit down. For an investment project worth hundreds of thousands, you actually took the trouble to come in person. Thank you for your hard work. Standing close, I could hear Drake Jiang grinding his molars with a loud crunch. The voice almost slipped out from the depths of the throat. Ivy Wen. I pretended to pour him a drink, deliberately spilling it on him. Then I pretended to wipe his suit, intentionally tearing his sleeve. Drake Jiang's eyes were practically murderous. The last time, after I messed up his hairstyle, he finally couldn't hold back and yelled, "Have you fucking had enough? Not enough." His words fueled my anger, and I stiffened my neck to argue with him. It was your people who belittled my work first and insulted me afterward. Did I not communicate with you during the drawing process? Why do you act so superior? Dismissing my hard work with a single sentence and trampling on the colleague who worked with me. If you want to play with Tess Lu, give her billion-dollar projects for all I care. Just don't fucking drag me into it, okay? I've had enough. Drake Jiang. I pulled the divorce papers I always carried with me from my bag and threw them in his face. Let's get divorced. In the past, I wouldn't have dared to confront Drake Jiang so recklessly. I saw him as my god, as my salvation. I don't want the gods to leave me, so I tread carefully, throwing tantrums and making scenes to keep them by my side. But now, I'm tired. I don't want to play anymore. I want to escape the gods. To become an ordinary person. I want myself to have no more weaknesses. Publicly defying Drake Jiang led to a truly disgraceful outcome. I was imprisoned by him. He destroyed my career, hired people to smash my studio, cut off my internet, deleted my portfolio, put the electronic ankle monitor on me and confined me to my home. I sat on the bed, sneering at Drake Jiang, who was seated on the sofa. Is this all you've got, President Jiang? He remained silent, leaning against the headboard reading a book, his long, raven feather-like eyelashes lowered attentively. It's undeniable that Drake Jiang is handsome, with delicate features, standing at 188 centimeters tall, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. It was this very appearance that clouded my judgment during my freshman year. I pursued him relentlessly for 4 years. As graduation approached, exhausted from the chase, I was ready to give up, yet he came knocking on my door on a rainy day, kissing me fiercely in the pouring rain. Ivy Wen. Who gave you the right to chase me when you wanted and stop when you felt like it? What do you take me, Drake Jiang, for? And just like that, we were together. Everyone envied Ivy Wen from the art school for winning over Drake Jiang, the heartthrob of the business school, but they didn't know. The night Drake Jiang confessed his love, his mistress Tess Lu left the country. He confessed his love to me out of revenge, out of venting. In the years that followed, although Drake Jiang married me, he remained indifferent. Only in bed did he exert himself, until 3 months ago, when Tess Lu returned to the country. Drake Jiang completely changed toward me. I don't want to look back on the past. I let my legs dangle, the electronic ankle monitor burning hot around my foot. Drake Jiang, you say you're tired of me, so why won't you let me go? Drake Jiang wore gold-rimmed glasses, looking all prim and proper. He just kept his head down reading the newspaper, his tone indifferent. You're mine in life, and in death. He paused, then said, you'll die on this bed too. Hearing this, I knew convincing Drake Jiang to let me go was out of the question, so I stopped wasting my energy. With a turn, I threw off the covers and went to sleep. In the following days, Drake Jiang watched over me almost without leaving my side. One afternoon, Drake Jiang was called away by an unexpected phone call. I was just about to put my grand escape plan into action. I never expected to open the door and immediately run into Tess Lu. I slammed the door shut again with a bang. Tess Lu was so angry she stomped her feet outside. If you've got the guts, come out and face me. Hiding inside doesn't make you a hero. Ivy Wen, I advise you not to entertain any devious thoughts. Brother Drake's heart has always been with me. Ivy Wen, you're just a coward, spineless, you. I swung the door open with a bang, and the person outside instantly fell silent. Want to put on an act with me? If we succeed, I'll personally hand you my divorce certificate. The Jiang family villa caught fire, flames and thick smoke billowed into the sky, leaving behind a pungent, choking odor wherever the fire spread. Amidst a series of muffled explosions, the piercing wails of sirens cut through the air. Outside, the area was swarmed with police cars, fire trucks, and ambulances, yet inside the house, apart from the crackling of flames, there was no other sound. The silence was almost eerie. A stretched Porsche screeched to a halt outside the villa, and a figure in black hurriedly stepped out, exuding a disheveled air. Not long after, the villa door was slammed open. Teslu collapsed on the stairs, unconscious. Drake Jiang rushed in, surrounded by thick, billowing black smoke. A flicker of confusion crossed his eyes, as if wondering why Teslu was here, but the current situation left no room for thought. He scooped Teslu up in his arms and turned to leave. I, who had been standing in the corner all along, suddenly spoke up. Drake Jiang. The man froze in place, then slowly, incredulously, turned his head. I was clad in a white dress, the flames repeatedly licking at its hem. Even surrounded by flames, in a life-or-death situation, I neither cried nor made a fuss. Only smiling quietly. Drake Jiang, goodbye. His expression froze on his face, as if struck by some indescribable emotion. His gaze gradually grew uneasy, panicked, as if guessing what I would do next. Stretching out his arm desperately to grab me, I dodged his hand, turned around, and pushed both of them out the door, locking the villa. Amid the billowing black smoke, scorching waves of heat surged forth like a tidal force. The shackles around my ankles, scorched by the flames, automatically released. Finally, I pushed open the back door just before the first explosion. A blast of heat knocked me onto the grass in the backyard. The sky was shrouded in thick haze, dim and flickering with intermittent red and blue lights. In front of the fiercely burning villa, a dark figure broke free from the police's restraint and desperately rushed toward the door. I walked away without looking back. After escaping Drake Jiang, I was completely free. I moved to another city, changed my name, registered a new studio, and started taking orders from scratch. Occasionally, news about the Jiang family in City A would appear on TV, but Drake Jiang, who used to love being in the spotlight, never showed up again. My studio's reputation is growing, and more companies are extending olive branches to me. I turned them all down. Once I join a company, I'll be at the mercy of my superiors, and it's inevitable that I'll cross paths with the Jiang group again. And right now, I don't want to have any connection with Drake Jiang. At a business dinner, someone inadvertently brought up Drake Jiang. After the villa fire, I heard the young master of the Jiang family, Drake Jiang, has been bedridden with illness. Oh, it seems his wife died in that fire. Rumor has it that Mr. Jiang never liked his wife anyway. Her death must have been quite convenient. Who knows? The girl next to me kept glancing at me repeatedly with a strange expression. I couldn't help but ask a few more questions. She suddenly said, "Has anyone ever told you that you look very much like Chairman Jiang's first wife?" At that moment, I was engrossed in peeling shrimp. Upon hearing this, I calmly wiped my hands. My expression remained composed and indifferent. Is that so? President Jiang is truly outstanding. I dare not presume to reach so high. The client we're collaborating with is new to this city and doesn't know the way. I went to the airport to wait for her. In the bustling waiting hall, a procession emerged grandly from the VIP passage amidst the crowd. A group of tall, burly security guards surrounded a young man and woman. The man was dressed in a suit, his features calm and indifferent. Sharp-eyed reporters spotted them and eagerly swarmed over with gossipy enthusiasm. President Jiang, regarding this investment in City B, what unique perspectives and insights has your years of business experience brought to the table? Are there any particular life lessons or experiences you'd be willing to share with others? President Jiang, we heard your wife recently died in a fire. Why has there been no news of her burial? President Jiang, please respond. The man addressed as President Jiang remained silent throughout, his sharply defined profile exuding an air of detachment and indifference. I glanced briefly before looking away. Amid the bustling crowd, I spotted the client from afar. Pushing through the throng, I ran toward her. The client's enthusiasm took me by surprise. While still at a distance, she shouted at the top of her lungs, "Wen Yan." At that moment, I suddenly felt a gaze from behind, fixed intently on this spot. The gaze was scorching, as if trying to see right through me. With a quick sidestep, I melted into the surging crowd, not daring to breathe. The client for this collaboration was Ely, a competitor of the Jiang family in City A. They hoped I could design character illustrations for a new O-tone game the company was developing. My reputation in the industry kept growing, and clients were offering higher prices. After completing this order, I did a rough calculation and realized my savings were almost enough to buy a house in this city. Of course, I also brought along the gold I had purchased earlier. Life is getting better and better. I met Drake Jeong again at Ely's victory celebration. The game they launched received countless praises upon release, instantly becoming the talk of the town and even overshadowing their competitors. Of course, the female protagonist's character design also garnered much acclaim. The project department manager specially invited me to attend. After several rounds of drinks, a middle-aged man hurried in from outside, his forehead glistening with sweat. "President Jeong is here," he whispered into the manager's ear. A look of shock flashed across the manager's face, but before he could prepare to greet the guest, the private room door was rudely pushed open. The waiter tried to intercept while walking. "Sir, this is a private room, you can't enter, sir." Drake Jeong strode in with his hands in his pockets, wearing a foul expression and looking like an arrogant jerk. The bodyguard stopped the waiter behind him. The manager quickly stood up to exchange pleasantries, unexpectedly. Drake Jeong didn't even glance at him and walked straight to my side. He looked down at me with an arrogant expression in his eyes. A mocking smile tugged at the corner of his lips. "Is this your illustrator?" The person in charge seemed momentarily unsure of his temperament, not understanding the meaning behind his question, and thus dared not respond. "Ely Company is struggling, not only failing to support the project. Even the little employee they found is a piece of trash." His smile didn't reach his eyes, and he emphasized the last two words heavily. At this point, not only did the person in charge fail to maintain their composure, but everyone present also began to offer awkward, appeasing smiles. I stood up expressionlessly and splashed the wine in his face with a backhand motion. "Mind your own business." With that one cup of wine I poured, the gazes of everyone at the table shifted from awkwardness to shock. I calmly wiped my hands with a tissue, automatically tuning out all the onlookers' stares, those filled with schadenfreude, ill intentions, or sheer surprise. "Waiter, see the guest out." Drake Jeong's face darkened completely. He dragged me into a pitch-black alley, his tall figure looming over me, bending down to look at me. His gaze was uncharacteristically serious. "Why set the villa on fire?" I rolled my eyes dramatically. "Mr. Jeong traveled all this way just to disrupt a drinking party and then drag me aside to ask why. Rumors say Mr. Jeong's time is worth a fortune. It seems it's not allowed." He completely lost his patience, his brows furrowed in suppressed anger as he grabbed my arm. "Come back with me." I forcefully shook off his grip. "President Jeong, there's only one reason that could make me go back." "What?" "To get a divorce certificate." He knew I was serious this time. For the first time, a crack appeared on his always proud face. "Why?" He was puzzled. The woman who had been clinging to him desperately just the day before had suddenly changed her attitude overnight. She would rather die than stay by his side. The young master of the Jeong family, proud and arrogant, never considered things from others' perspectives. I took a deep breath and decided to show one last act of kindness. Answering him for free. "President Jeong, I've been with you for 5 years, and you've never treated me as a human being. After Teslu returned to the country, it only got worse. You wouldn't remember your wife staying up late at home waiting for you to return. You wouldn't consider how your wife would feel if you were with another woman either. That night when you said you were working overtime, I brought you food only to hear the sounds of you enjoying yourself with another woman. You even arrogantly and tyrannically destroyed my career. Drake Jeong, I know you don't like me. It was you who sued for divorce. It was you who proposed marriage. I never held a knife to your throat and forced you, yet you never fulfilled your duties as a husband. Back then, I made a scene because I loved you, but you couldn't give me a sense of security. Later, I came to understand, I don't like you anymore. Drake Jeong. Drake Jeong and I have switched attitudes. He started waiting for me downstairs just to bring me breakfast. During a heavy rainstorm, I was working overtime without an umbrella, so he sat in the office building with an umbrella, waiting until dark. I flashed a big smile at the campus heartthrob, and he instinctively bristled with anger, but upon seeing my demeanor, his expression quickly turned cautious. I sat by the roadside eating a jianbing, and he joined me, sitting on the ground to share the meal. He lived in constant fear, terrified that I might utter the word divorce again, but my love for him had long been eroded by day after day of disappointment. What he's doing now is no different from a moth flying into the flame. Jeong Group has newly developed a game, but this project has been completely outmatched by Ely Company, struggling to gain traction. They want to acquire competing games from Ely Company in the market. But the condition they set was that President Jiang had to go in person for the negotiations. At Jiang Corporation, all the employees knew full well that President Jiang had abandoned his career for love, busy chasing after his wife, so no one dared to disturb him. An employee contacted me, asking me to persuade Drake Jiang, so during a dinner, I urged him to go back, telling him not to waste his time with me. He ate his meal in silence, head bowed. The once domineering President Jiang had vanished. Now he was always quiet around me, afraid that any word might upset me. After you've sorted out your company matters, I'll come find you. His head snapped up in an instant, an unusual joy clouding his eyes. I pretended not to see, picked up a piece of potato with my chopsticks, and slowly chewed and swallowed it before speaking calmly. Go back and get the divorce. The light in his eyes vanished in an instant, the hope in his gaze gradually shattering into fragments. Drake Jiang had barely left when Teslu came knocking at the door. She brought a group of helpers and kidnapped me to an abandoned factory in the suburbs. They pinned me to the ground and stomped hard on my face. The pain made me grimace in agony. Ivy Wen, you filthy slut, what acting, what golden cicada shedding its shell, all just excuses. Even staying in another city, you can't behave, full of fox-like charm, luring Drake from thousands of miles away. I originally thought of letting you off. But judging from Drake's words and actions these past few months, he loves you deeply, then you don't need to anymore. Teslu plans to starve me to death. She tied me up and threw me in a corner. Two tall and burly men were staring at me. At midnight, the two big men were still whispering to each other. Sister Lu is truly ruthless. She plans to ruin this woman first, then go after Drake Jiang. Someone asked, what's the word? Shoot, keep it down. I heard that Sister Lu tampered with Drake Jiang's car. The moment he drives it one day, it'll go out of control and catch fire. The handbrake is broken too. Yikes. Didn't she like Drake Jiang? How could she be so ruthless? If I can't have it, I'll destroy it, the man said. You know how haggard Drake Jiang looked during those days when the original Mrs. Wen went missing. Our Sister Lu isn't a fool either, knowing she can't keep this man's heart. She's decided to ruin everything together. I heard that Drake Jiang is attending some business meeting tomorrow. That fool has no idea Sister Lu has planted someone in that meeting too. Drake Jiang. There's no escape now. I curled up in the corner, pretending to be fast asleep, but in reality, I heard every word the two of them said. A little while later, when the two were sound asleep, I secretly used a piece of glass from the corner to slowly cut through the ropes. I hunched over and ran out. Teslu was too busy dealing with Drake Jiang to leave many people with me. She thought I couldn't stir up any trouble. She's always underestimated me like this. I fled overnight and bought a plane ticket back to City A. Drake Jiang has only one recent business meeting, which is the negotiation with the competing company Ili Jingpin, covered in dust with disheveled hair. The taxi driver gave me a strange look. I've always had bad luck, and this time was no exception. When I finally arrived at the company building, the security guard stopped me, mistaking me for a salesperson. After finally getting past the security guard, I rushed into the office area and looked around, but there was no sign of Drake Jiang, so I grabbed a passerby and asked, where is your President Jiang's most recent meeting? He didn't answer, just stared at me with a shocked expression, as if looking at a madman. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to calm down. I didn't bring my phone. Call the police now. Your general manager Jiang is in danger. Unable to get an answer and with no time to explain further, I began searching floor by floor. Suddenly, a piercing scream came from the elevator area, quickly drowned out by the sounds of a panicked crowd. He's bleeding. Where are the security guards? Call an ambulance, quick. Frantic shouts and chaotic footsteps intertwined, emitting a cacophony of harsh noises. The world spun around me. My blood vessels frozen as if I'd fallen into an ice cellar. I stood rigidly in place, not daring to move forward, until someone tapped me on the back. After what felt like an eternity, I slowly, stiffly turned my head as if waking from a dream. The first thing that caught my eye was Drake Jiang's enlarged face, currently frowning at me with his handsome brows. How did you end up here? I didn't respond for a long time. After what felt like an eternity, my stiff eyes finally moved, and tears began to fall. Drake Jiang, you're okay, that's such a relief. The person who fell was Teslu, and the perpetrator was the young man she had insulted at the previous dinner gathering. Teslu had planned everything meticulously, never expecting to be defeated by an ordinary person in the end. The police arrived to take him away, along with those who were preparing to assassinate Drake Jiang. Before being taken away, The young man made a special trip to find me. He bowed deeply. I'm very grateful to Ms. Ivy Wen for standing up for me at that time. If there's still a chance, I'd like to join your studio after I get out. I opened my arms wide, a radiant smile blooming across my face. You're always welcome. I won't ask him about his motive for the crime. Those in high positions will never understand the suffering of people at the bottom, nor would they ever expect that the common people they casually trample upon might one day nearly take their lives. Teslu was taken away, and Drake John's reaction was unexpectedly calm. I was curious. Don't you like her? Why didn't you help her at the time? He glanced at me with a somewhat speechless expression. Ivy Wen. I never liked Teslu. I sneered sarcastically. You men are all bizarre, capable of sleeping with women you don't even like. He shrugged indifferently. Before that fire, I wasn't sure about my feelings for you. Ivy Wen, you can't expect a powerful, wealthy man to refrain from touching other women before falling in love with one. True, I nodded. I won't force you. Placing the divorce agreement on his desk, I tapped my finger on the signature line, signaling for him to sign. He looked at me, confusion swirling in his eyes. Ivy Wen. Your reaction just now tells me you still care about me. I pulled out a pen and set it on the table. I respect every life. Sign it, President Jiang. What if I refuse? I suddenly raised my eyes and uttered a threat. I'll make sure you can never find me again. Drake Jiang left me 2 properties and enough wealth to live comfortably for the rest of my life. I carefully folded the divorce agreement and placed it gently in my pocket. This was the freedom I had longed for. Before leaving, Drake Jiang called out to me again, hesitating for a long time before speaking. Can I still come to see you in the future? I turned around and flashed a standard professional smile. You know the address of my studio. President Jiang is always welcome to visit. With that, I walked out of the corporate building without looking back. The intense sunlight poured down, and I raised my hand to shield my forehead, feeling an unfamiliar lightness in my heart. A caged bird will eventually fly toward the free sky.